Hello and welcome everybody to the Grim Dawn Fangs of Asterkarn Berserker class reveal. Yesterday, Xanta and me showed off the class on stream. However, the stream was over 3 hours long and I'm pretty sure not everybody of you have time to rewatch that entire thing. So let me do like a quick rundown video for the class for you. So the Berserker class is the 10th mastery coming to Grim Dawn, coming with Fangs of Asterkarn in 2025. First of all, let's check out what kind of attributes you get by putting points down into the attribute bar. So, as you can see, the full bar gives you 200 physique, 200 cunning, 100 spirit, 1350 HP and 550 energy. This divided by 50 means you're getting 4 physique, 4 cunning, 2 spirit, 27 HP and 11 energy per point. This is the second most amount of HP you get from all the classes. Soldier gives you 28 per point, and Shaman gives you 26 per point, Oathkeeper 25 per point. This is 27 per point. When it comes to energy, it's 11 energy, so it's the second least amount of energy. Soldier gives you 10 energy per point. When it comes to attribute points, it gives you, well, as I said, like 4 physique, 4 cunning, 2 spirit. Soldier gives you 5 physique, 3 cunning, 2 spirit. For example, Nightblade gives you 4 physique, 4 cunning, 3 spirit. That's the same as Nightblade, just like 1 spirit less per point. So stat-wise, you get a nice chunk of HP, but a little bit less like attributes per point as, for example, say a Nightblade. Where does this leave you? Well, it leaves you sometimes maybe a little bit out of energy in certain combinations, but I mean, there's always ways to get energy in Grim Dawn and energy regeneration, and this class also is going to have a fair amount of that. Now, let's check out the first skill, right? Top left. Implements of War. This is a dual weapon bonus, so this allows you first of all to wield dual weapons, dual melee weapons, as well as dual ranged weapons. It also gives you bleeding damage, like weapon-based bleeding damage, over 3 seconds, % bleeding damage affecting all of your skills, whether they have weapon damage or not, and then a chance to not consume Onslaught stacks, but those are more in a second. So let's put 1 point here. You can also check out the scaling. We can like put up to 12 points here. And then, of course, there's also going to be like overcap points. You can get up to 22 points, right? In Grim Dawn, you can always overcap a point, like a skill, by up to 10 points. So if it has 12 points by default, you can get up to 22 points into it via items, like via plus skills on items. But yeah, let's just put 1 point for now here to see what it does, right? So it enables you to wield dual melee weapons and allows you to wield dual ranged weapons. This is also one of the new items that you might have seen on the stream, which looks really cool in my opinion. Like a new one-handed gun. Or like rather, well, it's a one-handed crossbow, but currently has the sound of a gun. They're gonna change that. So, that is Implements of War, right? Rather basic. Now, what are Onslaught stacks? Onslaught is a skill, first of all, also. But also Onslaught stacks are like a new mechanic that is gonna be available in multiple ways, not only in the Berserker class. This is gonna be like the easiest way to get it. But there's also gonna be like Onslaught stacks that you can generate via like other items in the future. So, what is Onslaught itself? Onslaught itself is first of all a default attack replacer, right? So you can like put a point here, you can put it in your bar, and it's gonna behave just like a default attack, right? If you have like dual weapons, for example, equipped, it's gonna have the character attack as if you were like, you know, using a default attack with a like small effect on top, right? You can see like these frosty Asterkarn waves animating from you as well. Now, what does it do, right? It doesn't have like that much damage really on the skill itself. It has like some main hand damage, offhand damage, and also flat cold damage, which also scales up, of course, if you put more points. But it also generates Onslaught stacks. So when I hit something, like a dummy for example here, you can see the bottom left, like an icon appearing for Onslaught stacks. I assume this is still a filler icon, looks like a filler icon, but you can already like see how it works, right? You're getting up to 5 stacks here. And what do those 5 stacks do? Well, it has 75% additional damage to the next offensive cooldown ability. And also 2 seconds remaining, so if you stop attacking, like if you don't hit something for 2 seconds, these like stacks go away. Now, how do you use these stacks? Well, you can expand them with any other cooldown-based offensive skill, like say for example you are a occultist and you wanna use a Doom Bolt, right? Or you are a Force Wave soldier and wanna use Force Wave, right? So what it does is it amplifies the damage of your next cooldown ability. and at 5 Onslaught stacks, that next cooldown ability will have a 75% multiplicative multiplier to its damage. So you can already see where this is going, right? Especially with dot, like damage over time abilities, this can be pretty crazy damage scaling. I mean, it's gonna be pretty strong in at least one build out there. That seems pretty nuts. Yeah, so next up, in this Onslaught tree, we also have Open Wounds. Open Wounds just adds like some bleeding damage. It also adds, more importantly actually for endgame, damage reduction. So when you attack with Onslaught, you apply more bleed damage to enemies, and you also reduce their damage by 15% on the soft cap, and I guess it's gonna scale up to maybe like 20 or 25% on the hard cap, on 22 points. So this is Open Wounds on top, right? It's not gonna have an effect, I think, apart from like making enemies bleed, right? Like the dummy is bleeding here, as you can see. Yeah, nothing all too exciting. Then we also have Endless Rage. Endless Rage is the last modifier for Onslaught, and this gives you more Onslaught stacks. Right, you can see like 1, there's 2 and 3 points, there's 3 and 6 points, there's 4 and 9 points, and there's 5 and 12 points, and maybe there's some more hidden again in the overcap points beyond 12 points. So what this does now is you can, well, ramp up your stacks all the way to 10 Onslaught stacks, and maybe you're gonna get some more from items as well on top, right? So now your next ability is gonna deal 150% additional damage, so basically gonna take the damage of the skill and multiply it by 2.5. Also indicated by these like small blue like orbs swirling around you, right? So that's pretty nice. We're gonna pick up maybe like a skill to expand these stacks on here in a second. Now Onslaught is a default attack replacer. Default attack replacer meaning it can also proc so-called weapon pool skills. And Berserker has 2 of those. First of all, Bloodfangs. A cruel double strike leaves your enemies bleeding out. This one always hits twice, right? Like if you're using one-hand weapon, it's gonna hit like crisscross strokes, right? And if you're dual wielding, it's gonna hit like twice with both weapons as well, so you basically hit 4 times. And it also works with a melee weapon, ranged weapon, two-handed, dual wield. It works with all of those basically. This is not like the Nightblade tree where they're connected to the dual wield node here at the top left. These are independent and can work also for two-handed, right? Implements of War will only work when you're dual wielding, melee or ranged, but you can also not spec into Implements of War and still pick up Bloodfangs if you're playing a two-hander. As you can see, it has, like, it increases with chance to be used. Like, it increases its chance to be used the more points you put here, increases your main hand, offhand damage, pierce damage, bleed damage, and also if you're using a ranged weapon, it has a 100% chance to pass through enemies. Now, how does it behave with a two-hander? With a two-hander, you have the same damage, just like only main hand damage. And let's check it out in action. So, with the two-hander, the animation is gonna look like, let's see here. Gonna be like a red double crisscross stroke. Well, at only one point it's gonna have like a very small chance to be used here. There we go, right, there we go. The red like double strike. Very nice. Now if you have a one-hander, it's gonna look the same, more or less. And if you're dual wielding, it looks like this. Right, the red like swirls, like twirls in front of you. It's pretty cool. So those are gonna hit like, those are hitting like twice per weapon, right? So 4 times in total. Come on, one more time. There we go. Right, that's the animation right there. Now, if you're using like a shield, it's going to behave the same way as if you're like just using one-handed weapon, right? Same way. The shield's damage is not being added here. And what else do we have? We have a two-handed crossbow, for example. There we go, right? It shoots twice and it passes through the dummies. If you're using a one-handed gun and shield, same as like a one-handed without a shield, right? There we go, right? Shoots twice. If you're using dual guns or one-handed crossbows, yeah, also shoots like twice with each gun. Or like with each crossbow, so like 4 times in total, and all projectiles pierce through the dummies. Come on. There we go. Alright, so that's Bloodfangs. The next weapon pool skill is Avalanche. Avalanche basically procs, well, like an avalanche from your attacks. And it's gonna look like, well, let's just check it out, right? It's dealing main and offhand damage again, works with all weapons, very similar to Bloodfangs, but it does not have pass-through. On the other hand, the projectile it spawns basically has pass-through on its own, and also has a 10-meter range, so it's a bit more range when you're playing melee, like a weapon pool skill with range actually. And also scales up in weapon damage, chance of use, pierce damage, and cold damage in this case. So if you're using dual guns, it looks like this. You're kind of shooting into the ground to trigger like an avalanche, which makes more sense, I guess, in like expansion areas where you actually have like snow on the ground. Then with the two-handed crossbow or gun, it looks like this. I think this actually looks cooler when you have a shotgun than like a crossbow, but oh well. The two-handed it looks like this, very nice. I really would love to see this animation for Bone Harvest as well, actually. I really like this animation for two-handers. Or like for one-handers too. Yeah. One-handed, looks like this. Hello? There we go. And with the shield, it's the same. I'm pretty sure. Yep. The shield's damage is not being added here. And dual wielding, it looks like this right here. Yeah. This is also what I wish Bone Harvest looked like, actually, in a way. Alright, very cool. So, these are the like default attack and weapon pool skill related skills for this class. Next up, we have some battle cries in this class too. We have the Rallying Cry, which works a bit similar to the Inquisitor's Word of Renewal. It is a party buff, granting you offensive ability, movement speed, heals you on use, and also gives you maximum movement speed, which is like the crazy part about this in my opinion. It also lasts a lot longer than it has recharge, so you can have like 100% uptime on this. And it has a modifier called Impulse, which gives you slow rest, trap rest, and crit damage on top. Again, party-wide buff. If you're playing multiplayer, all of your allies are gonna get this. Also, all of your minions are gonna get this, both in single player and multiplayer. Then you have Frenzied Cry, which reduces the cooldown of this by 4 seconds. So you can use it more often. And also, this one allows you, like, this is a melee and range dual wielding technique. So to use this, like to get this cooldown, you need to be dual wielding. But also, if you want to enable dual wield, but you don't wanna like work with onslaught stacks or with bleed damage, like with Implements of War, you can also dual wield by just using Frenzied Cry without Implements of War. So if you wanna ignore this, you can just play this for dual wield, and then you don't need Implements of War at all. How does it look like? Let's check it out. It actually doesn't matter how many points you put here, I think it always looks the same. There we go. Sounds a lot nicer than Soldier's War Cry in my opinion as well. Yeah, fits the class, does what it's supposed to do, and looks very nice in my opinion. Also like adds a small like glow to you knowing that you have the buff. Like showing that you have the buff. Alright, there is one skill that I actually didn't show for Onslaught yet, and that is the Transmuter here. Covenant of Chthon. So this one, well, converts all of your cold and piercing damage on the skill, and also all cold and piercing damage that you add to the skill to chaos damage. This also means that if you use Onslaught to proc weapon pool skills like Bloodfangs and Avalanche, that the pierce and cold damage from these skills are also going to be converted to chaos damage. Now, how does it look like? Right, the base skill looked like this, right? These blue waves, and if you use Covenant of Chthon, it's gonna make them like chaos red. The weapon pool skills themselves aren't getting visually converted in this case, unless you find some items that like specifically target those weapon pool skills. But this like icy avalanche here would actually deal pure chaos damage in this case, because you are converting the pierce and cold damage with the Covenant of Chthon. Alright, there's another battle cry in this class called Bonechilling Cry. This is a resistance reduction shred ability, and this also pretty much shows you all the damage types that this class supports, like, innately. Of course, there's going to be, like, itemization, enabling other types of Berserkers as well in the future, that you can find whenever the expansion is out, or also, like, probably during playtesting as well. But yeah, this gives you, like, a rough idea what this class is all about on itself, without items. It's all about supporting pierce damage, cold damage, chaos damage, and bleeding damage. And Bonechilling Cry gets higher radius, the more points you put here, and higher resistance reduction, the A Shred. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, it has a full uptime, as you can see, 6-second recharge, 12-second duration. Is pretty strong, in my opinion, like, very strong. Maybe this is... we'll see if it's too strong or not. But yeah, it seems pretty strong right now. This is the Rallying Cry, and then you have the Bonechilling Cry. There we go. This also applies this very nice debuff icon here, and as you can see, the cooldown is up earlier than this one. Fades, so 100% uptime on that proc. Or like on that debuff, rather. Very, very cool ability. Sounds very good. Like, how, like, please update Warcry. Anyway, next skill. We can also leap around as a Berserker. You can use a leap up here. Leap, well, it's literally just a leap. Deals main hand damage, no offhand damage, so this will kind of like favor a two-hander probably. And also has physical and piercing damage by default. And then fourth line adds more piercing damage, bleed damage, and crit damage to the skill. Actually gets quite a lot of crit damage, you can see here, like 50% crit damage at soft cap is a lot, that's kind of crazy. And the skill itself also scales up in AoE, as you can see here, right, like up to 6.9 meter radius, kind of nice. You're gonna get more radius, I guess, with overcap points, and also, yeah, pretty hefty, like, main hand damage. So let's, like, put 1 point here for now, in both of these, see how it looks like. With only 1 point, there we go. And then if you put more points, it looks like this. That's a lot bigger. And it looks really, really cool then. So yeah, if you want to do like a two-handed slam build, maybe Leap is going to be the skill for you. Alright, we got some more boring, in quotation marks, passive, like one in quotation marks, like boring passive, and then we can actually look into the like proper thematic skills for this mastery, right? You were looking for transformations in this class as well. But first of all, let's check out Amatok's Pact, right? Amatok's Pact kind of reminds you of Mongdogen's Pact from the Shaman tree. First start adding flat cold damage, defensive ability, and armor. More, of course, the more points you put here. That's kind of it. Second one being Blood Frenzy. Gives you % pierce, chaos, bleed, attack speed, and casting speed. So just like a... kind of like field command and soldier in a way, but a bit more specific. Like field command gives you all damage, this is more specific to pierce, chaos, bleed up damage. I think this gives you higher % values in field command, but well, more limited to specific damage types. And then last but not least, you also have Icebound, which gives you, well, specific cold and frostburn damage, as well as flat weapon-based frostburn damage, which is gonna be something that any like Shadow Strike Nightblade, for example, is gonna love. And also gives you poison and vitality resistance, kind of similar to like how Oak Skin in the Shaman tree gives you pierce and aether resistance, right? So again, as I said, like very similar to the Shaman's Mongdogen's Pact. And you can already like hear a sound of me like activating and deactivating it in the background all the time, right? And the icon for this looks like this. There we go. Alright, next skill. Next actual skill. Let's go down here real quick. Let's talk about two more boring passives. Boring quotation marks. Battle Surge. Now, this one is actually not boring at all, because it has a very new mechanic on it. It has a HOT, it has a heal over time. This is a thing that didn't exist in the game before at all. So this procs on crits, kind of like the Inquisitor passive, Deadly Aim. So whenever you crit, you feel invigorated. And what does it do? For 3 seconds, like you get a 3-second buff on yourself, which restores 5% of your HP per second. So like you tick 3 times, it's like 15% over 3 seconds basically. Every second you get 5%. And it also increases your energy regeneration by 10% for those 3 seconds. If you put more points here, you reduce the cooldown, and you also increase the amount of health you regain and the amount of energy you like regenerate. And yeah, since this is on crit, it is rather easy to proc usually. Except in my case, I have like no offensive ability right now. So let's check it out against like some of these mobs here maybe. There we go, this is the icon. And the sound that you just heard looks really nice in my opinion as well. For 3 seconds you get this buff. Alright, next we have Untamed Rage. Untamed Rage is a circuit breaker similar to Oathkeeper's Resilience or Demolitionist's Blast Shield. So whenever you drop below a certain threshold, this will proc, and for a 5-second duration you get % damage absorption and % offensive ability. Now, it seems really strong, right? Like 20% absorption, 20% offensive ability is a lot, and that is very Berserker themed for sure. However, it has a very low threshold, like 40%, that's pretty low. I think lower than, definitely lower than Blast Shield, I think also lower than Resilience in the Oathkeeper tree. So, and also it doesn't heal you like on use. So it might not always actually save you, but I really like it because it's very like Berserker themed and giving you like more offense, but also more like resilience at the same time. So, very interesting circuit breaker. How reliable it really is and like how many points you want to put here, we're gonna see, right? I'm not so sure it's gonna be like super duper strong, but in certain situations we have like some other things that like maybe proc also at 40% HP that also heal you at the same time. Like if you actually get healed at the same time, I think this could be like very, very strong. But on its own, I would say it's definitely weaker than say a Blast Shield overall, especially for hardcore. But yeah, really, really cool. Next up, let's check out the transformations. Finally, right? Finally. So first of all, you can become a werewolf. You can actually become a werewolf at level 2 already. So if you want to play that transformation Berserker right away, you can do so right away. Now, how do transformations work? So when you transform, you gain the like 2 new abilities. In this case, Feral Claws and Rip and Tear on a werewolf. Also, a werewolf has its own basic attack, well, Feral Claws, which kind of works like a Blade Arc in a way. But it cannot, like the Feral Claws cannot proc any weapon pool skills, so you cannot use a werewolf like Bloodfangs or Avalance. And also werewolf cannot use Onslaught, and like it cannot use other default attack replacers. However, you can use pretty much any other skill in the game. So you can, for example, play a literal Blade Arc werewolf, or you can shoot Phantasmal Blaze as a werewolf, or you can drop down Chosen Sky Shard as a werewolf, right? You can use all those other abilities, and if the werewolf form like boosts your damage, for example, in some way to those skills, then it will also do that. And yeah. Otherwise, the werewolf by itself also scales of your weapons, right? So the Feral Claws have main hand and offhand damage, and the Rip and Tear has only main hand damage. Unless you actually equip a shield, then the Rip and Tear also gains offhand damage. So you can kind of see that Rip and Tear is a skill that scales with 2-handers, or like 1 hand and shield. I wonder if it scales with like pistol and shield even. It does, that's interesting. And whereas Feral Claws either scale with 2-hand, or if you're using 1-handed shield, only like with your 1-hander, or if you're dual wielding, actually also scales of dual wield, right? Gives you main hand and offhand damage if you're dual wielding. And this is also the case if you're using 2 pistols. So if you're using dual pistols, the werewolf's melee claws are gonna scale with the damage of your pistols. Sounds weird, but that's kind of what it is. Let's just go ahead and show you the transformation, right? Let's go and put the werewolf here. Transform into a werewolf right now. There we go. So now we gained Rip and Tear, this attack, like a charge attack, and the Feral Claws. And as you can see, the transformation is not permanent by default, it is temporary. You have an 8-second duration and a 5-second recharge. The 5 seconds start after the transformation is done, So you really need to find ways to either extend the duration of your werewolf, get lots of CDR, or maybe find some endgame items that give you permanent forms, which do exist. There's already been like a spoiler for the Fenris set. The Fenris is going to be like a cold Berserker set, which gives you a permanent cold damage werewolf. But I can think of other ways how you can, for example, get a permanent werewolf, right? You could, for example, get around 40% CDR so that your recharge is around 3 seconds, and then maybe use the new Hourglass proc that got updated recently. It reduces your procs by like 3 seconds. And yeah, with a well-timed Hourglass proc, you could have basically permanent werewolf as well. So those are like some of the ways how you can get or like become a permanent werewolf. Now the skills that are attached to this, or like the modifiers here, are Voracity. This one, as it says in the description, only modifies the Feral Claws, right? So crit damage, pierce damage, and leech, but only for the Feral Claws, not for other skills. So if you are choosing to use Feral Claws as your main attack, then obviously you want to pump this up. But maybe you want to play a werewolf that doesn't use this skill at all, like maybe uses like other skills, and then this might not be even that useful for you, right? Maybe like only a 1-pointer, or you just skip it totally. Interesting ways to build this. And then there's Recklessness. Now Recklessness gives you % pierce and bleed damage as like a global passive buff as long as you are a werewolf. So you can use other skills as well, and they are going to be boosted by this % damage while you are a werewolf. So there's like an incentive for you to transform into a werewolf and then use other skills, even if you don't want to use the werewolf space skills. And then the third line says reduce target's defensive ability for 3 seconds. This is like a buff that's adding to your weapon pool as well, like to your weapon damage pool basically. So whenever you are in a werewolf form and you are using a skill that has % weapon damage, like for example Shadow Strike or Ring of Steel, you're gonna apply defensive ability Shred with that ability. This obviously also works for the main attack of the werewolf, or like the 2 main attacks for the werewolf, because they have weapon damage like main hand, offhand damage, and so on. But also can work for other skills, like for example Ring of Steel or Shadow Strike. And also the fourth line here is a 20% chance on enemy death to refresh duration by 0.5 seconds. And you can see here you get like max 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and so on. So what this means is whenever you are in werewolf form and you kill enemies, right, you're like kind of like in the thrill of, like in the rush of, I don't know, in the blood frenzy, whatever you want to call it, right? You gain, like if you kill 10 enemies here in this case, you gain 5 more seconds. So you extend your werewolf form time by 5 seconds. Instead of 8 seconds, you're gonna be a werewolf for 13 seconds. So that's like another way how you can extend being a werewolf. And I can imagine, you know, with overcap points, you're gonna be able to last much longer in werewolf form. Maybe there's gonna be some items as well that allow you to last even longer in a werewolf form. So there's gonna be like many ways how you can, you know, become a basically permanent werewolf as well. So for those of you that dislike not being permanently transformed, there's gonna be like many different ways that you can get to that point. And yeah, I mean that's the pierce bleed werewolf, as it's like that's like the base damage type of this guy, right? By default it's like pierce bleed based. And of course let's also try to leap. Oh shit. Well, we're gonna wait for another transformation here, let's see, right? You can also leap as a werewolf, which looks really fucking cool in my opinion. There we go, right? And so that's the Pierce werewolf. Maybe I should like zoom in once more. There we go, right? This is how it looks like. And then we have also the Chaos werewolf, because there is a transmuter called Blight of Chthon. So this converts all of your pierce damage in the werewolf form to to chaos. Which means also that, for example, if you're using leap, right, the physical, or rather the piercing damage from leap and the fourth line are going to be converted to chaos with Blight of Chthon. So if you now use the skill, right, you are a red glowing werewolf. You're a chaos werewolf with a chaos leap, a chaos rip and tear, and chaos claws. And any pierce damage skill that you would be using in that form, like for example Ring of Steel as well, would be automatically dealing chaos damage too, as long as you are a chaos werewolf. I think this is kind of like all you have to know about the werewolf for now. I mean, there are going to be items that convert chaos werewolf, or like werewolf in general, also maybe to other damage types. We have seen a cold werewolf, I think there's acid werewolf, maybe even like a fire werewolf, who knows. There's going to be like many different iterations of this. Now the second transformation is the Wereraven. The Wereraven is very different to the werewolf because it's more like a caster transformation. It has the Ice Talons and Cold Snap as its abilities by default, but of course you can, again, use any other skill apart from weapon pool of skills and apart from weapon default attack replacers. It also has two modifiers here, Glacial Talons and Everwinter. Glacial Talons improving the Ice Talons, so kind of like how Voracity improved Feral Claws, Glacial Talons improve the Ice Talons, the default attack of the Wereraven, giving the Talons more range, more cold damage, frostburn damage, and also slow enemies. Now, how does the Raven look like and how do the abilities look like? The Wereraven looks like this, and has a Cold Snap attack and a default Ice Claw attack like this. Ice Talons attack. So yeah, it's pierce cold damage, mostly more so cold damage than pierce damage by default. And it is a caster. Why is it a caster? Because neither of the two skills have percent weapon damage on them, right? So this guy actually does not scale with the weapons at all. You just wanna get percent damage, for example, on an offhand. So you kind of want to build like a caster if you want to be a Wereraven, since the Wereraven doesn't really benefit from you using like high weapon damage anyway. Unless you are a Raven, but still use a weapon damage based attack, like for example Primal Strike, right? Then you might still want to go big for weapon damage and, well, ignore the Raven's basic attacks and, you know, use your weapon instead to scale your weapon damage of your attack that you want to use while being a Raven. There's like many different ways you can play this. And then also, going along with this is the Everwinter passive. Right, Everwinter extends the duration of the Raven, right? In this case, from 8 to 11 seconds flat. Not with a recklessness type interaction this time. Just gives you like flat duration by default. And also gives you more percent pierce damage, cold damage, and frostburn damage. So this again applies to all of your skills that you're using while being a Raven. So for example, if you want to do like a frostburn damage, Trolls and Skyshard build, you might want to be a Raven and have Everwinter on top to get some more frostburn damage onto your like Trolls and Skyshard, for example. Everwinter doesn't really change how the Raven looks like. Just gives you like a buff as long as you are a Raven, right? And the Ice Talons, you can increase the range of these more by putting more points of the Glacial Talons. So you're gonna have like a longer range here. Alright. The next ability is a caster ability that we can check out here. It is the Winds of Asterkarn. The Winds of Asterkarn is a channeling ability that you can use in a human form or in a transformed form, and it deals cold and frostburn damage. Let's see how it looks like. Right. So you are channeling, you're dealing damage in a big AoE around you. However, you have to first kind of like start channeling it a bit because it starts out like with a small radius. Now, this being a channeling ability is similar to, say, for example, Aether Ray or Plains of Ignifar. It does scale with casting speed in the way that it ticks faster, right? The more casting speed you have, the more damage it deals, like the more often it deals damage. And also it grows in size quicker the more casting speed you have. So if you want this process to be sped up, you also need to get some more casting speed. And then also you can use the Hailstorm, right? This will drop some additional projectiles while you are using Winds of Asterkarn. So really leaning into that like Trolls and Skyshard fantasy in a way. And as I said, you can be a Wereraven and also channel Winds of Asterkarn like this. There we go. Or you can be a Werewolf And Fangs of Asterkarn as well. Depends what you want to do. I mean, in this case, I guess Wereraven makes more sense because you get like % cold damage buff as a Wereraven, which you don't get as a Werewolf. But who knows, maybe there's some other way you want to play this at some point. Now, there's 3 more skills here at the very end. There's 2 exclusives and 1 passive. Let's check out the passive first because it kind of like ties in with the transformations. That one is called Form of the Beast. So whenever you are in the transformative state, you gain damage absorption and total damage modified. So this might be one of the reasons, well, like if you weren't sold on the transformations yet, right? And this is probably why you want to be transformed as a Berserker, at least for certain builds. This is absolutely insane, in my opinion. Like, absorption and total damage modified, meaning a multiplicative modifier to literally all of your damage. Which, yeah, I think this is like a little OP maybe. Anyway, this seems very, very strong. And will definitely make up for you not being permanent in a form. I think like during leveling phase that seems kind of balanced still, but like endgame, when you get to that point where you are permanently in a form in some way or another, this is gonna be absolutely crazy, right? So ideally, well, the items or like the mechanics that allow you to become like a permanent form, maybe, you know, keep in mind that Form of the Beast exists in the, like in the back of their head, and it's gonna be taken into account for balancing. We'll see. Anyway, this is just a straight up passive and doesn't really have like any fancy animation or something. It's just crazy stats, and it's something that you wanna keep in mind when you are transforming, that you are gonna become very OP with this potentially. Anyway, on top of this, there's also 2 exclusives. We have the Bloodborne exclusive. This one gives you weapon damage based bleed damage, like bleeding damage added to your weapon damage, crit damage, pierce damage, chaos damage, bleeding damage with increased duration, and healing effect increase. I feel like this class has a lot of crit damage, right? You have crit damage here, you have crit damage here, and you have crit damage here. Like, that is a lot of crit damage. Like, leap crit, it's gonna have a lot of crit damage. Anyway, so this is kind of like what you want to go for if you are playing a Pierce, Bleed, Chaos style Berserker. And also healing effects is gonna work for your heal over time for Battle Surge. So if you want to boost the amount of heal you're getting from Battle Surge, or also from Untamed Cry, or also from like all sources of Leech, like for example Veracity, then Bloodborne is what you want to do, right? Let me actually show you the buff, how it looks like. There we go, pretty cool. And let me respec real quick as well to show you the other one, because, well, they're exclusive, so I can't have both active at the same time. Also, maybe we remove the Amatok buff real quick, so we can look at the Bloodborne buff on its own first. Right, there we go. This is the Bloodborne buff on its own. And now we'll remove that one as well.
What troubles you?
And we pick up the Heart of Asterkarn. This one is, well, as you might have guessed, the exclusive for the one other damage type we didn't look at yet here from the exclusives, which is cold damage, right? So this one has flat cold damage, % cold damage, % frostburn damage, physical and piercing to cold conversion, as well as offensive ability and slow resistance. That sounds like a Nightblades or like any Nightblades Wet Dream. And this is gonna make the Nightblade Berserker combination pretty crazy in my opinion, because this is a lot of stats, I think, in one exclusive as well. And seems pretty strong. Looks like this. Looks really cool with a pulsating glow here, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely like bet on Reaver being a strong class, which is Nightblade and Berserker combination. Those were all the skills of the Berserker class. Let me know what you think about this class. Let me know what you're looking forward to the most, what you like, what you dislike. And also, I have a couple more short spoilers here maybe for you, because for example I found a weapon that converts the Winds of Asterkarn to lightning. Let's see if I can equip this or not. This is a Sigario's Sacred Blade, which you might know from Forgotten Gods from the base game already, or like from, well, Forgotten Gods expansion rather. Need some more spirit to wear this, so I'd like to put some more spirit here. And then, well, you can't, well, there's no melee plus range gameplay in this game. Well, I'll say that, but you can have a crossbow and transform to a melee werewolf and have the melee werewolf like scale of your ranged weapon. But otherwise there is no melee ranged hybrid gameplay in this game. Yeah, so it's gonna show you Lightning Winds of Asterkarn. That storm looks pretty cool. Oh yeah, it's not gonna convert Hailstorm, is it? Probably not. I mean, the winds look pretty fucking cool though, not gonna lie. That is really, really dope. Also, if you're wondering about all the mastery combinations, Inquisitor and Berserker is called a Runekeeper. Soldier Berserker is called a Dana. Demolitionist Berserker is called a Dreadnought. Occultist Berserker is called Primalist. Nightblade Berserker is called Reaver. Arcanist Berserker is called Evoker. Shaman Berserker is called Mystic. Inquisitor, well, was the Runekeeper. Necromancer Berserker is called Veilkeeper. And Oathkeeper Berserker is called Zealot. And if you, for example, would like to use Prime Strike as a Raven, for example, it's gonna look like this. So yeah, this might be like a reason why you still want to play like a weapon damage based Raven, for example. So yeah, there's gonna be like custom, like not all of these animations are done at this very point, so I can't show you like, for example, in a spinning werewolf, but there's gonna be a spinning werewolf, right? You can use our reckoning as a werewolf in the future, at least when the expansion is out, at the very least. Probably a lot before that, I can show it to you probably at some point. So this is very interesting, and there's actually one little spoiler I could also show you about like some skills that have been changing a little bit. There are some other systems in the game. I mean, there's many systems coming with Fangs of Asterkarn, right? Many systems coming, like the Ascendant endgame system and so on. But there's also a charge system, giving you charges now, for example, for grenades and demolitionist. You can see like a small number 3 here. The UI is probably not like entirely finished yet, but you can see like I can like throw 3-4 grenades if I get a reset on top, instead of just 1 like before, right? So demo is gonna be a lot of fun if you enjoy like piano builds, I can tell you that. It's gonna be very fun. Anyway, Fangs of Asterkarn is looking pretty crazy so far, and we haven't even seen the actual Fangs of Asterkarn, we've only seen the Berserker so far. Anyway, let me know what you think, guys, and I'm very excited. Very excited what this mastery is gonna bring to the game, and with all the maximum movement speed as well that we get now on like the class, devotions, like Hydra has some now, and we're gonna get some more on items that were just confirmed. The game is gonna change on a, maybe not like fundamental level, but it's gonna change a lot. It's gonna, I feel like this expansion, the Fangs of Asterkarn expansion, is gonna have a bigger impact on the game than Forgotten Gods did, actually. So there are very exciting times ahead. Anyway, let me know what you think, and thank you so much for watching.